It's a word game. What's up, guys? Say hello to Hannah, chat. Did you guys enjoy the game? I gave you a game, so. Oh, I just got a new comment on a YouTube video. What was it? Oh, it was somebody asking me to do more gameplay. That's all the validation I needed. You can't hear Hannah. Oh, hold on. Hannah, say hello.
Nice.
Hello.
Now you can hear Hannah.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for subbing on Twitch. I love that when people sub to me, they hear Tommy's voice. If you guys don't know, the voice that says sub on Twitch nice, that's my dude on TikTok. During one of my streams, somebody subbed to me and I thanked them and he said that and I clipped that and now it's the sub noise. So Hannah's here. Hannah lives in Texas. We're gonna watch the Abbot O'Rourke debate. Hannah has braced me for this. So we're going to give our commentary as professional debaters. I say professional because we both have technically been paid, and all you need to be considered a professional in something is to get paid for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually,
you're considered a professional singer if you get paid to sing.
That's dope.
So
I didn't know that.
We're going to watch it. So
incumbent Greg Abbott.
He wants to go take your guns and deny you your Second Amendment rights.
And Hannah, if you want to pause at any time, just
Challenger Beto O'Rourke.
An abortion ban with no exception for rape or incest, that is not us. That may be Greg Abbott.
Now, in their only debate before Election Day, we go after
shit, that stupid game is still going.
About...
Wait, turn off. Leave. Stop it, game.
Post. Immigration. Abortion rights, gun violence.
Yeah, we're just starting right there.
How far we'll go to protect our children at school. Tonight, the heat is on in South Texas, live from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. The Texas Governor's Debate starts right now.
People didn't know what way you look like, Anna.
We are coming to you live from the Performing Arts Center at the University
Everyone
of Texas
thinks
Rio Grande Valley in Edinburgh for the Texas Governor's Debate. And we are so happy that you're joining us tonight.
Smash.
I am your host, Britt Moreno, anchor at KXAN in Austin. This debate is airing live from El Paso to Tyler and from Amarillo to Brownsville, carried by 14 Nexstar media groups.
Anna, do you have headphones or no?
Yes, I have headphones.
I literally can just hear it playing back in your screen.
Stations in Texas, as well as 5 partner TV stations, and we want y'all to join in the
turn on closed captions for everybody.
Use the hashtag TXGovDebate. You'll see it there at the bottom of your screen. You're all here to watch these two men share their vision for the state of Texas. Asking the questions tonight are panelists. From KSAT in San Antonio, anchor Steve Spriester.
Smash.
My colleague at KXAN, anchor Sally Hernandez.
Smash.
And from the Dallas Morning News, political writer Gromer Jeffers.
Definitely smash.
Candidates, let's briefly go over the rules for tonight. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for each question. If there are follow-ups, candidates will then have 30 seconds.
We need to debate like
and
this.
And there will be up to 30 seconds allowed.
Is it better now?
At the end of the debate, each candidate will have 30 seconds for closing statements. And when your time is up, you're going to hear this bell.
Wait, how do I still hear it? Are your headphones even
I'm
working?
going to send it over to my colleague Sally with the first
Why did they
question.
not?
Britt,
They
thank you, and
disconnected for
again,
some
thank
reason.
you both for being here tonight. I can tell it's going to be an exciting
This is what
night.
I meant
Got
by
a lot of
professional
questions to
commentary,
ask you both,
potato.
and I just want to remind you, please pay attention to the time cues. This way,
She is actually gorgeous.
You and our viewers.
No, I don't hear it now. We're good
tonight. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Immigration. Immigration issues are especially relevant here
Out
in
of
the
the
Rio Grande
gate!
Valley. For years, U.S. Customs
I guess it's
and Border
Texas, that makes
Protection has
sense.
ranked it as the #1 area for migrants crossing illegally.
I'm sorry, my
along
socials
the
are in the
entire
way of the
southwestern border.
closed captions, guys. Let me move
Many
those.
communities here have suffered enormous monetary costs. Governor Abbott, let's start with you, and you have 60 seconds with this question. What would you do to alleviate the financial burden placed on these communities?
We've been working to respond to the disaster
caused by the Biden administration that has caused such an economic burden on these communities.
Biden's been
Farms and
harder at
ranches
the
that
border than
run
Trump
over,
was.
Communities are disrupted. Homes that are
His
invaded.
first response
Remember
to his
this, just
question
2
is
years
blaming
ago, we had
Biden.
one of the safest borders in decades, but under the Biden administration, we have more people coming across the border than ever in the history
Yes,
of
and
our
we've
country.
sent back
Texas
more
has
people.
responded by making sure that we have the National Guard and DPS deployed, where they're making arrests and turning back illegal immigrants, as well as what we're doing to help local communities by busing them from the area where Border Patrol is dropping them off to sanctuary cities
Actually,
in northeastern parts of the country.
well, hold on.
But what
That's
we're
not a
doing is
bad
making
idea to
sure
do.
that we
It
are keeping
just
our
has to be
borders
done
safe, and
right.
This is completely different than the way things
The
would
fact
be,
that he didn't
under
mention that is a
Beto, because
federal
he
policy as
said
well,
months ago,
and he didn't mention
"There's
that
no
federally they
problem on
call it
border."
the
He
Abbott
said
plan.
that, he
Mistake
would
on his part.
reduce,
I would have mentioned that
immigration
immediately.
enforcement. He even said that 95% of people come across the border
Thank
illegally,
you,
he would allow
Governor.
to stay.
Okay, Mr. O'Rourke, I want to give you a chance to respond.
Did he answer the question on like what we should do about immigration? Okay, I didn't think so.
Let me just
I didn't
repeat
think
the
so.
question first for our viewers and for you. What would you do to alleviate the financial burden placed
Yeah,
on
he
border
didn't
communities
answer that
related to
question at all.
migrants crossing over? 60 seconds, please.
What we just heard from the governor is what we are likely to hear over the course of this
Hey,
meeting. He's going to blame people
Eucalyptus
like
Noir.
President Biden.
I love that name.
He's going to
Thank
try
you for following
to
me.
lie about my record, and he's going to distract from his failures, whether it's his failure to keep the lights on in the grid, his failure to address school shootings, or his failure in immigration. We are 8 years into his time as governor, and this is what we have on our border. In fact, $4 billion into Operation Lone Star. We're seeing not fewer, but more encounters at our border right now. What we need is a safe, legal, orderly path for anyone who wants to come here to work, to join family, or to seek asylum. If you come to this country, we expect you to follow the law. But on our side, we're going to make sure that our laws reflect our values and our interests. And I'm going to work with local leaders, Republicans and Democrats alike, to make sure that we have a Texas-based guest worker program to alleviate shortages that we have in our state for labor demands, and reduce inflation and address supply chain issues as well.
Thank you.
Answered the
Governor
question.
Abbott, you just heard your opponent talk about Operation Lone Star, and I have a follow-up question about that. About $4 billion in state funds has been directed to the Operation Lone Star Border Security Initiative. The program has seen its funding increase as recently as this past July. So the question, Governor, and 30 seconds if you can to answer this, should more money be allocated towards Operation Lone Star? And if so, Governor, how much?
Well, candidly, we shouldn't have to allocate any money for it, because this is all because of Joe Biden's failure to do the president's job to secure the border. We're only having to do that because of Joe Biden's failure and because it would be the same pathway that Beto would take us down. Speaking of which, he talked about this guest worker program.
Oh, is it pronounced Beto?
Had he won the race for the Senate or won the race for president, that's not a job for governor. The job of governor
I don't know which way's the right way.
chaos caused by the Biden administration and its open border policies.
I've never heard him say his own name.
Just
What we have
let
is
me give you,
chaos thanks to Governor Abbott right now.
Okay, let me give you 15 seconds to answer the question for me. How much money should be going toward Operation Lone Star?
And I'm telling
They
you,
have to do this so much. Re-ask the question and give him less time because he never answered it.
We had a president who was enforcing the immigration laws of the United States of
This
America.
is
Mr. Work, I want to go over to you. 30
bro.
seconds for
He's
this question. It's the same one.
has he gone to the
Should more money
TikTok
get
school
allocated
of
towards
debating?
Operation Lone Star?
No,
Probably.
it's clearly failed. The numbers are in. We're seeing not fewer but more engagements at our border. When the governor spent $4 billion of our tax dollars on what has turned out to be political theater for his political career, he promised us that it would deter people from coming to this
That's
country.
so
We've only
funny.
seen
How do
more
you feel
people
about
come.
X? Joe
Now they get a
Biden.
bus ride to Chicago or Washington, D.C. or New York. We don't need any more stunts. We need solutions. We need those coming here to follow our laws. We need to make sure our laws follow our
Thank
values.
you,
Sally, can I
Mr.
respond
Ward.
to that, please?
I'll give you 15 seconds, Governor.
Sure. So these are efforts to protect our state.
Why is he in a wheelchair?
There is a record amount of fentanyl coming across the border.
I don't know.
Deadly. Texas law enforcement has seized.
He's only your governor.
enough
Why would
fentanyl
you?
To kill every man, woman, and child in the entire country. And this is because of Joe
Thank
Biden's.
you,
I don't
Governor
care
Abbott.
about
I
him.
assure you we have a lot of questions, a lot of topics to get to, and Steve has the next one.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, gentlemen, for both being here tonight. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to continue with the immigration topic now. You've criticized the deployment of National Guard troops to the border.
Tree
Here's a
fell on
clip
him?
of
Is
you
that real?
speaking at a March rally in College
Huh?
Station.
Someone in chat said a
Guard
tree
members
fell on him.
from Texas A&M who are on the border right now in Zapata and Webb and Hidalgo counties to go be part of a solution in search of a problem.
A solution in search of a problem. More recently, you told the Houston Chronicle that you will put some troops on the border as governor. In 60 seconds, can you explain why your view on deploying troops has seemingly changed when it comes to the border?
It hasn't. I've actually been to Zapata and Webb and Maverick counties and listened to these members of the Guard who had less than a week to say goodbye to their families and to their careers and into their communities to be part of the governor's political theater. Those aren't my words, those are their words. So far, we've lost the lives of 8 Guard members. 4 of them have taken their lives, and 4 of them have died in questionable circumstances, none of whom, by the way, was killed by anybody coming in to this country. These Guard members say they have no powers to arrest or detain anybody. 10,000 Guard members, $4 billion, and it's been a complete failure, much as everything that the governor has done has been a failure for this state. What we need are solutions, not more stunts. Where we can have a strategic deployment on a voluntary basis for Guard members, let's do that. I've been consistent on that. Where we can partner with local sheriffs, with DPS troopers, let's do that. But we need to work on things like a Texas-based guest worker program to meet labor needs in our communities.
I want to hear more about that.
Laws match our values.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, I want to talk to you. You talked about migrants and the busing of
guest
border plan?
No, the guest worker
advocates and
program
Democratic
specifically.
Elected officials have expressed concerns about the treatment of migrants being bused from Texas to other states and cities. Here's New York Mayor Eric Adams talking about that just last week.
And when we reached out to
not a huge fan of this man.
Stated, can we coordinate? Can we identify, who's traveling here, that we don't have to guess this? They refuse to do so.
The White House has called this a political stunt.
I'm sorry. Sharks.
What?
Sharks in chat just said someone needs to Mac and me the governor. I just want everyone to understand what Sharks is talking about real quick.
About the treatment of
Wait a second. She's talking about the Mac and me wheelchair scene. Sorry, Sharks, I misgendered you. That's all on me. I apologize for that. This is the wait. Oh wait, this is the wrong wheelchair scene. Hold on. This is the wrong one. This is even the wrong one. This is the right wheelchair scene. Here we go. Here we go. Sharks, this is why you're one of my favorites, Sharks, because this is so funny.
This is the insight I came here for.
Wait, it's not even the funniest part.
Oh my god.
I just gotta say one thing though. Great debate commentary. The Paul Rudd Mac and me bit that he did on Conan for all those years, so funny. Okay, back to the debate. Sorry guys.
And someone said this is the insight I came here for.
It's so funny. It was such a funny joke. I had to explain it.
Is this a political stunt?
All right, let me go back.
Traveling here, that we don't have to guess this, they refuse to do so.
The White House has called this a political stunt. Governor Abbott, is this a political stunt? And has there been coordination with the states and cities these migrants are being taken to? And if not, why not? You have 60 seconds, sir.
So this operation began after a meeting with local officials, sheriffs, mayors, police chiefs, and county judges, where they were overrun with the number of migrants that Border Patrol had dumped into their tiny little communities. They needed relief, and busing was one of the ways of providing them relief, and thus began the process of busing the migrants to cities that self-identified.
I like that little baddie
cities.
fell asleep
Mayor
during
Adams
Abbott's answer.
Has never called my office, never talked to anybody.
Hold on, pause.
In my administration.
Pause. He says that they never called his office. They never talked to anyone in his administration. That's a lie. Adams' office reached out to a member of Abbott's administration, and they spoke on the phone on August 1st about about the migrants' arrival to New York City. And then they followed up with him in an email and never got a response from Abbott's administration.
Got him. They don't have a fact checker at this debate?
They did fact check after, I believe.
Oh, okay. Hannah got the receipts.
And so what he's saying is just flat out false. There has been communication between non-governmental organizations in Texas as well as the ultimate
They
location.
also, I would assume there's been communication if they call it the Abbott
But
plan.
going back to what Beto said, what you showed on video earlier was what happens throughout this entire campaign where Beto continues to flip-flop on issue after issue after issue. He's flip-flopped on the border issue. He's flip-flopped on the energy issue, such as energy jobs and the Green New Deal. He's flip-flopped on defunding the police. Whether it's one issue or another, he keeps changing positions.
I want to be clear, though. You say that Mayor Adams has never called your office.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to follow up on this.
Flat out lie.
You've called the busing of migrants a political stunt as well. Why shouldn't sanctuary cities share the burden of what's happening on the Texas border? You have 30 seconds.
Look, I live on the border. No one cares more about the security and safety of the border than those who are raising our children there. I also served as a city council member there. And in my time working with law enforcement, working with state and federal partners, we were able to help make El Paso, Texas, one of the safest cities in the United States of America. It's because we were looking at solutions instead of these stunts. I just want to remind everyone, this guy's been governor for 8 years, and this is where we are today. Some of the worst levels of engagement, encounters, fentanyl trafficking, and human smuggling.
That's true. He's been the governor for 8 years, so what's going to change all of a sudden?
The time, please. Thank you.
Steve, I got to respond to what he just said.
Absolutely. I'll give you 15 seconds.
He mentioned El Paso. The fact of the matter is the El Paso mayor, a Democrat, the El Paso City Council, Democrats, they are now busing more people.
I thought Beto was the mayor of El Paso.
And he's not calling them out.
I don't believe he's the current mayor, but he was.
It is apples to oranges. And I'll tell you, this hateful rhetoric, this treating human beings as political pawns, talking about invasions in Texas, Texans defending themselves, that's how people get killed at the Walmart in El Paso. The gentleman in Hudspeth that we just learned about yesterday, this is incredibly dangerous for Texas and is not reflective of our values.
Okay, Governor,
he said you ain't cutting me off
to respond to those charges.
Sure, I mean, it's clear that Beto just wants to perpetuate the open border policy is to mischaracterize exactly what's going on.
That's so false. He doesn't support open border policies. He literally just explained his plan for the borders.
By Joe Biden's open border policies, they too are having to bust migrants out of
Joe Biden doesn't have open border policies.
That's what we're trying to do to help our local.
If we had an open border, why are we apprehending people? How are there illegal immigrants if we have an open border?
For open borders, not the least of us who actually live on the borders. This is the kind of stunt that you get from Greg Abbott. We need solutions right now.
I want to go to a follow-up for you, Governor Abbott, and it's on the busing question. These migrants are being sent to states and cities with Democratic leadership. Why aren't these migrants being sent to so-called sanctuary cities in Republican-led states like New Orleans or Metro Atlanta? You have 30 seconds.
So again, because these cities of New York and Washington, D.C. and Chicago are so large and have the infrastructure that's available, they have the capability of accommodating the number of
not a bad
that
answer.
Are being sent better than these.
I was hoping his answer would be worse.
There will be other cities in the future that also will be on the receiving end of migrants because we will continue to have to move migrants because Joe Biden continues to allow more illegal immigrants to come into the state of Texas.
Thank you, Governor.
Bro, you don't have to mention Joe Biden in every answer. You're not running for president.
Good to see you.
I know.
You too, Gromer.
Let's pivot now to the topic of gun control. Following the Uvalde massacre, many community members made this one specific plea. Here's one student who survived the shooting at Robb Elementary.
You have to be 21 to buy a case of beer, but an 18-year-old bought a gun to kill kids. That does not make sense.
To be clear,
that does not make sense.
Raise the age limit to buy an AR-15 style weapon from 18 to 21. A Republican governor in Florida broke with the NRA to sign this into law after the Parkland mass shooting. Governor Abbott, you say this can't be done in Texas. Mr. O'Rourke, you say it will be done if you're elected. Can you please explain your positions? Let's start with you, Governor Abbott. You have 60 seconds.
First, there's no reason why a little girl like that should ever have to say anything like that. There's a reason why these parents are angry.
Yeah, you didn't do anything about it before or after it happened.
And I can feel
it's been 18 weeks.
No parent should lose a child. and we want to do everything we can.
You
to
said
make
it
sure
could have
that
been
does not
worse.
happen. We want
That's
to
what you said in
end
the speech after it
school
happened.
shootings, but we cannot do that by making false promises. It's a false promise to suggest that we can pass a law that will be upheld by the Constitution to raise the age, and here's why. The most recent Federal Court of Appeals decision on this particular issue said that it was unconstitutional for a state to raise the age from 18 to 21 for a person to buy an AR-15. So any attempt to try to raise the age is going to be met with it being overturned.
A federal appeals court in Texas ruled that the state of Texas cannot ban adults under 21 from carrying handguns, not AR-15s, and the Supreme Court has not yet weighed in on this issue. So,
damn, Hannah, you have the fact check pulled up? I love that.
Yeah, there was one earlier, but I wrote down all the claims that I was like, this is bullshit, and then I saw them all on the website.
Why didn't you make a TikTok? That'd have been a good TikTok.
Maybe I will.
What is really ailing our communities, and that is the mental health that is leading people to engage in school shootings. And Texas is already addressing.
I just want to note he mentions mental health here. Keep that in mind for the future of this debate.
Did every Republican not just vote against a massive nationwide mental health reform bill for schools? Every Republican voted against it.
There's more to that, and I'll tell you in a sec.
Just a quick follow-up, Governor. Take 15 seconds to answer this. You're a former attorney general.
I hate that closed captions are not working in time.
Are you against this proposal because you feel like it's unconstitutional, or you believe that it's unnecessary? You personally believe that it's unnecessary?
Purely from a legal position, based upon what that Court of Appeals decision ruled, and importantly, based upon what the Supreme Court decision said in a June opinion that changed the way that Parkland
This
case
is false.
was
The Supreme Court has not weighed in on the issue. And Texas, the ruling the Federal Court of Appeals that he's mentioning right now did not speak about AR-15s. They spoke about handguns. Adults over the age of 21, you can't, or below the age of 21, cannot ban them for handguns, not AR-15s. And he's lying about the Supreme Court opinion because they haven't weighed in on the issue yet. So
get them.
Florida is going to have its law overturned because of this new Supreme Court decision.
Thank you, Governor.
False.
Mr. O'Rourke, in 60 seconds, can you please explain your position on raising the age limit to purchase AR-15 style weapons?
First of all, I'm going to follow the lead of those families from Uvalde. That's who I'm doing this for. In fact, many of them drove more than 5 hours, 280 miles to be here today, even though they're not allowed in this theater because of the governor's conditions, because they want to hold him accountable, because it's been 18 weeks since their kids have been killed, and not a thing has changed in this state to make it any less likely that any other child will meet the same fate. All we need is action, and the only person standing in our way is the governor of the state of Texas. In Florida,
not standing, but you know,
after the Parkland shootings, it was 23 days for that Republican governor to raise the age. And in those states where the age has been raised, mass shootings are down 80%. So yes, we can raise the age to 21. And as governor, I'll bring Republicans and Democrats around the table to do that. After all of these mass shootings, this governor has done nothing except make it easier for people who should not have a firearm to carry them publicly, and this is what we get as a result. We need change.
Governor Abbott, the last time you ran for governor, we asked you about red flag laws, and those are laws which could stop an individual with potential intention to harm others from purchasing a gun. And you said about that, quote, "I would not support a red flag law that would take guns away from people without due process." Now, a lot has happened in those 4 years. Are you open to implementing red flag laws today? You have 30 seconds.
Well, let me tell you what I support and I don't support. What I support is making it a felony for someone to lie on a background check. I signed that into law last year. I approve of expanding background checks to include juvenile records. Also approve of making it a crime for criminal gangs to buy or to possess a gun. But
you know what else you signed into law last year?
Red flag laws
letting people open carry without a permit.
A lawful Texas gun owner their constitutional right to due process.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke, you have been criticized at times for your positions on gun control, including this comment you made in 2019 while running for president.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow
That's going to bite him in the ass.
anymore.
But in February, you told reporters in Tyler that you were, quote, not interested in taking anything away from anyone. So which is it, Mr. O'Rourke? Are you for confiscating AR-15 style weapons or not? You have 30 seconds.
After losing 23 of my neighbors to somebody armed with a weapon of war, after talking to these families who could only identify their children in Uvalde by the shoes that they were wearing, it's clear to me that the only place that an AR-15 or an AK-47 makes sense is on a battlefield. But as governor of the state of Texas, I need to be focused on what we can get done. Raising the minimum age of purchase to 21, we can get that done. A red flag law, we'll get that done. Universal background checks, we will get that done. We'll make progress and take action where this governor has failed.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't think he changed his beliefs. I think he just became more realistic with the state he's becoming governor of. We've been a historically red state for like literally ever.
Those families that I was just with from Uvalde want us to take action. This is the common ground. I've listened to Republicans and Democrats alike on this. We can agree on this much. Raise the age to 21,
okay.
red flag law, and a universal background check.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Steve has the next question.
Thank you, Gromer. We want to focus in now more on the Uvalde shooting. A gunman killed 19 children and 2 adults. Its effects, though, go far beyond Uvalde. Mr. O'Rourke, I want you to speak to parents of victims and really all parents statewide worried about their children's safety at school. What would you do if elected to prevent this from happening again? You have 60 seconds.
Just like you, I'm a parent. With Amy, we're raising Ulysses and Molly and Henry in El Paso, and we are well aware that it's been 18 weeks, and this governor has not lifted a finger to make it any less likely that any of our
fuming
kids
that he hasn't been able to talk.
Fate. We need change. The governor just talked about mental health care.
Look at him over there.
Dead last in the nation when it comes to mental health care access, and he took $211 million from the mental health care budget of the state of Texas. He'll talk about police funding.
Can you pause that?
He failed to fund the police radio.
Poop train.
Not only did he take that $211 million from the fund for mental health, that money was allocated toward Operation Lone Star at the border. Took it away from mental health to allocate it to the border operation. So, yeah.
Poop train is here, guys. Poop train, how's it going? Don't ask me what I ate for dinner because I ate crap.
In Uvalde, even when that police department asked for them. And you know what? Those radios failed on that day. I want every parent out there to know that the lives of your children are more important to me than the NRA or any special interest or any other political consideration. I will prioritize them ahead of everything else, and we will take action and we will make progress. We'll bring Republicans, Democrats, independents alike together, and we'll get the job done where this governor has failed to do so.
Governor Abbott, to you now. The families of the victims.
Poop train, I'm not going to say no, obviously.
Getting you food?
And yes, that is Hannah. I'm not going to say no to like some McDonald's or something, but you don't have to. You know the rules here. But obviously I'm not going to say no.
Uvalde School District, the Uvalde County Commissioners, the Uvalde City Council all asked for you to call a special session in the wake of the tragedy. You did not, despite calling them on several other issues in the past. Can you explain why you didn't call a special session? You have 60 seconds.
He's going to
pivot. But I must first respond to what we have to respond to every single day. Beto's campaign continues to spew lies and false information. He said 2 things that are completely false. He said that we're last in mental health care. The fact of the matter is Texas is now 27th in mental health care because the funding that I provided. Texas has provided more than...
False. We are 51, including BC, in mental health access, and that was verified by a 2022 report from Mental Health America. And also the funding that he's talking about, over the 2-year period that he took the $211 million away, over a 2-year period that was allocated toward the border. So no, he hasn't put more funding. That's also false.
Yikes for him.
Has he had an answer that was actually factual yet?
No. Like $0
billion for mental health care in the last 3 sessions. He also said that we did not fund police radios in Uvalde. Completely false. We provided $1.6 million for Uvalde alone for their police radio systems since I've been governor. So Beto continues to provide false information. What I want to make sure that the leaders in Uvalde know is, as we've shown, we don't need to call a special session in order to take action. For 6 consecutive days after the shooting.
Wait, Deadass nothing about a poop train. I think they did add the McDonald's Big Kid Happy Meals. I'm gonna go see if I can put that on my treat stream, because that would be fire. Yikes, that's my Cash App. Nobody look at that.
Took place, I issued directives to make school safer and to respond to the emergency in Uvalde. And then I remain engaged with the mayor, with the local leaders.
It could have been worse. That's what you told those families. That's what you told that community, and you have done nothing to help them.
Mr. O'Rourke,
Mr. Governor,
we're not done with this topic yet, so you will have your say. But Governor, I want to follow up with you. There's a regular session coming up in January. Will you make school safety an emergency item for lawmakers when they meet? You have 15 seconds.
Absolutely. Just like I did in past sessions. This is going to be an emergency item. Over the summer, I requested special legislative committees to begin working already so that they will have ready when we begin the session to address Uvalde, but the broader-based issue across the entire state of Texas,
if it's an emergency,
as you
call
mentioned
a special
earlier.
session now. Why wait till the next year?
Mr. O'Rourke, a question for you now.
Gun violence is a leading cause of death for children and teenagers in this state. Why are you waiting to save lives?
We need to move on. We've got a lot of topics we want to get to, but we want to stay on Uvalde because there's still some questions that we have here. So I appreciate you staying within your time. Mr. O'Rourke, Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo, who led the initial law enforcement response at Robb Elementary, was fired. Is there anyone else who should be held accountable for the mistakes made in that hallway in Robb Elementary that day? You have 30 seconds.
The governor said it himself in an interview to Gromer Jeffers last month. There should be accountability up and down the ballot, beginning with Greg Abbott. I think he has lost the right to serve this state in the most important position of public trust. Furthermore, we know that there were 91 DPS troopers for whom he is responsible who were on the other side of an unlocked door, some for more than 70 minutes. There is a complete failure to hold people responsible accountable. Those families still do not have justice. As governor, I will make it my priority.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, now to you.
There was it. Go ahead.
I'll give you 15 seconds if you want to respond to what he said.
I was going to answer the question. I thought you were going to ask me. But
I've got another question for you. Right after the shooting, you said this.
But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. You heard Mr. O'Rourke bring it up. You later said you were misled.
I don't think that I said that.
I can't believe they clipped that.
Right, that was the day after.
Love that.
So
also, Poop Train.
What had happened.
I did add the Big Kid Happy Meal, so just throwing that out there.
Will they be held accountable? You have
I love Poop Train.
Everyone in that briefing room that provided me the information about what law enforcement did, what that comment was based upon was information by law enforcement about all the children in all the other classrooms that they evacuated during the time when the
No, hold on. They were giving a lot of wrong information. The police on the scene were. So it's not crazy to think that he was given incorrect information sitting in a briefing room somewhere.
No, I believe that. I'm talking about him justifying the police officers not doing anything.
Okay, that's a whole nother thing. I'm just saying the whole, like, it could have been worse thing. He might have been told different information at the time.
But nothing justifies you saying that in a live stream where the family's victims are, the victims' families are watching.
I agree.
No circumstance. I don't care if one kid
any
got
tragedy,
killed.
you should never say it could have been worse. I'm just saying his answer, as in, like, I was told incorrect information, is not far out there to believe.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Shooter was on the campus. What they did not tell me at the time, however, was that there were dozens, if not more, of other law enforcement that were hanging around in the hallway for over an hour without engaging in the Columbine protocol and going in and immediately removing that shooter, which is what they were supposed to do, and because they failed to do that,
I'm
there
gonna get a
does need to be
toy.
accountability.
Poop Train.
Not
I
just
can
for
put the
Pete
toy right back
Arredondo,
here
but
with a
also
little
for
sign
local
that
law
says "From
enforcement.
Poop Train."
DPS officers are under investigation as we speak right now. There needs to be accountability for law enforcement at every level for not following the Columbine protocol.
You will be sure to hold DPS troopers accountable.
Yes,
as governor.
in a word, yes. But second, there are at least 7
So
who
no.
are under investigation as we speak right now.
That's true.
2
A lot of
whom
them are under investigation.
on suspension as we speak right now. And so I expect DPS officers and law enforcement across the state to follow the Columbine protocol.
Governor, the buck stops on your desk. You blame everyone else. You blame Joe Biden for other issues.
We need to move on.
You blame
we need to move
people
on
for misleading
topics,
you.
and actually,
You are misleading this state.
Sally will ask the next question.
I do, and I think you're both going to want to talk about this next topic. It's the topic of abortion. A recent Next Star, Emerson College, and the Hill poll shows more than half of those polled say they are more likely to vote in this election because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. You both are very outspoken on this issue, but what I want to do tonight is really drill down on specifics. Governor Abbott, you recently sat down with my friend Gromer over here and you talked about what women can do if they are victims of rape or incest. And here's a clip of that interview.
Those victims can access health care immediately as well as to report it. Both of those have very meaningful consequences. By accessing health care immediately, they can get the Plan B pill that can prevent a pregnancy from occurring in the first place.
Some healthcare advocates say emergency contraception like Plan B is often unavailable or it's too costly for women to afford. And trauma could prevent them from taking emergency contraception in the time frame that it's effective. So, Governor, we're going to start with you. With these concerns that I just laid out, is emergency contraception a viable alternative to abortion for victims of rape and incest? And you have 60 seconds, sir.
Sure. So to directly answer the topics that you raised, on the availability of it, it's incumbent upon the state of Texas to make sure that it is readily available. For those who are victims of sexual assault or survivors of sexual assault, the state of Texas pays for that, whether it be at a hospital, at a clinic, or for someone who gets a prescription because of it. And so not only should be readily available, but the state of Texas is going to pay for it to make sure that it is available for them.
But Governor, 30 seconds, or I'll give you 30 seconds to answer.
You didn't answer the question.
I still want to know, is Plan B the alternative when it comes to somebody who is pregnant from rape or incest?
Well, it depends on what you mean by alternative. An alternative, obviously, is to do what we can to assist and aid the victim. And that is to help get them medical assistance.
Do what you can, except
need,
provide necessary medical care.
But also to know what their options are. They're going to.
They have no options. It's forced pregnancy.
Through our Alternatives to Abortion program, provides living assistance, baby supplies, all kinds of things that can help them.
So deal with it. That's
living assistance to living assistance for a child.
Thank you, Governor.
That's effective.
Mr. O'Rourke, we're going to stay on the topic of abortion here. Governor Abbott has said that you support abortion on demand. Do you support any limit on when a woman can't have an abortion? In 60 seconds for this question.
This election is about reproductive freedom. If you care about this, you need to turn out and vote. I will fight to make sure that every woman in Texas can make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. And I will work with the legislature and my fellow Texans to return us to the standard that Texas women won in the first place, Roe versus Wade. That's the standard that answers your question. But I've got to respond to this silliness on Plan B.
It's a very succinct answer.
This comment he made about eliminating rape in the state of Texas. This is an attack on women. More women have been raped in the state of Texas than any other state. There are 3,000 untested rape kits at DPS headquarters,
context
meaning
it's,
that our ability
15th when taken into account for population,
by
like the rate.
on this governor's watch.
But like raw numbers, we have the most out of any state.
More rights under Greg Abbott than their victims do, because they can sue the families of their victims if they help their victim get an abortion, and be able to win a $10,000 bounty in the process.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, I'll give you a chance to respond. Governor, 30 seconds.
So once again, I'm going to be doing this a lot. I have to point out a misstatement by Beto. I signed a law that eliminated the rape kit test backlog at the Texas Department of Public Safety. As it concerns abortion, Beto's position is the most extreme because he not only supports abortion
backlog still
of a
exists.
fully developed child to the very last second before birth, he's even against providing medical care for a baby who survives an abortion.
Hold
He's
on,
for
pause.
unlimited abortion.
He just said Beto's for an abortion up until the second before birth or the minute before birth, right after Beto just said he's going to return us to the standard of Roe v. Wade, which is 24 weeks.
Really walking your foot in your mouth there, Abbott.
At taxpayer expense.
That's not
Mr.
true.
Ward, please,
It's
30
completely a
seconds to
lie.
respond.
I never said that, and no one thinks that in the state of Texas. He's saying this because he signed the most extreme abortion ban in America. No exception for rape, no exception for incest. It begins at conception, and it's taking place in a state that is at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis, thanks to Greg Abbott, 3 times as deadly for black women. I will fight to make sure that every woman makes her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. That's what most of us, Republicans and Democrats in this state, believe.
Mr. Ward, just 15 seconds. Is there a limit that you support on women getting an abortion?
That limit was decided in 1973 through a victory that Jane Roe and Linda Coffey and Sarah Weddington won before an all-male
getting the
United States
names.
Supreme Court. I want us to return to that. It was the law of the land for nearly 50 years until we had the most extreme abortion ban in the country.
Gromer has the next question.
Thanks, Sally. Let's move to law enforcement. Mr. O'Rourke, you have been accused by Governor Abbott of supporting efforts to defund police. He may have mentioned it tonight, actually. Here's a chance for you to set the record
I kind of want to
straight.
come out to
Do you
Texas,
support
Hannah, and
measures
help
to
you
defund
canvass.
police? You have 60 seconds.
You should.
Of course I don't, and no one does.
Would make a great video.
But let's look at my record. I think that's the best thing to look at.
Yeah.
And we'll look at the governors. On
You can make a
El Paso
YouTube
City
video.
Council, I raised police salaries 12% in the 6 years that I served there. In Congress, I funded $11 billion to local and state law enforcement across this country, including in Texas. I want to fund law enforcement, fund training so that everyone is treated equally under the law. And I want there to be accountability for when those officers abuse the public trust. But let's look at what Greg Abbott's done. When police and law enforcement begged him not to sign permitless carry, because it allows anyone to carry a gun in public without a background check, he turned his back on them, did it anyhow. Homicides have gone up 50%, and we now have gun violence as a leading cause of death for children and teenagers in this state.
Hey,
When the
Intimate
Uvalde
Explorer,
Police
thanks for
Department
following.
asked for funding, he turned his back on them. He is not doing what keeps us safe. That's why you see the level of rape, violent crime, and homicide up on Greg Abbott's watch.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. O'Rourke. Can you take 15 seconds to answer this? After the summer of 2020, did you voice support for cities that cut their police budgets? Minneapolis comes to mind. Did you support those efforts?
What I supported and what I continue to support is full funding for law enforcement, full funding that includes training to ensure that we're treating everyone equally under the law, and we definitely need accountability and justice. If someone abuses the power of life and death over our fellow citizens, without accountability, we lose the ability to keep our communities safe.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor Abbott, you have spoken about the growing crime in Texas in your commercials and on the campaign trail.
Hey, Porter, thank you for following.
You've been governor for more than 7 years. So why is crime up? Don't you bear some of the responsibility for it?
So I'll fully answer that question. Let me first...
You have 60 seconds, by the way.
Let me reply, and that is, once again, Beto misleads by saying that we denied Uvalde Police Department any money. We've answered every call they've ever made to make sure they have whatever funding they need. And Beto clearly said that in response to Minneapolis, that he supports their idea of defunding and dismantling police. And I got to add this. He didn't say a word to criticize the city of Austin.
I see you. Do you want me to pause?
Their police by more than $100 million. The law I passed will prevent any city from defunding the police because in Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. The reason why there's been a rise in crime in some areas, Gromer, is because of another issue we're working on. And that's what's happening in Harris County and some other counties where in Harris County, they have these easy bail policies that Beto supports, which is cashless bail, that is letting dangerous criminals, such as people recently convicted of murder last year, back out on the streets now who killed a police officer recently in Houston, Texas.
Governor, take 15 seconds to answer this again. You've been governor for 7 years. Crime is up. Do you bear any responsibility for that?
So let me again explain what happened. In Austin, after they defunded the police, the year after that, they had the highest number of murders ever. In Harris County, where they have this easy bail policy, in the past couple of years, there have been hundreds of people killed by people let out on bail who had been previously arrested for murder.
Didn't answer the question
Thank
at
you,
all.
Governor. Our next topic comes from one of our viewers. Actually, Britt has more on that.
Yes, Grover, thank you so much. Candidates, I have our first viewer question for you. And just so you know, we use this as a jumping off point to then craft our own question for you. So here is Douglas Tyler out of Hayes County with his question. Douglas.
Governor, what steps would you take to ensure that there is not another ERCOT failure like we had during the winter of 2021? How would you increase the generation capacity and reliability? Is it time for Texas to face reality and join the rest of the country in the cooperative grid system?
Okay,
Can you pause it before he
Douglas
answers?
asked a lot of questions about the
I wanted to go back and make sure that I was correct in my information. But the defunding Austin Police Department, it's a 3-tiered plan, and they haven't defunded it all the way. And the money that they're cutting from the budgets is being reallocated to violence prevention, social services, and there was another one, another thing for violence prevention, I believe. So no, they didn't just take the money and that was it. They reallocated it to things that will actually help prevent and stop, lessen crime rates.
I mean, are you surprised?
No.
He hasn't. Abbott literally has not told a single truth. Like almost all of
There
his
has
answers
not been
have
a full answer. Yeah, there has not been a full answer. He said like some truths within his answers, but the full 60 seconds or 30 seconds, there was a lie in every single one.
Yeah.
Many Texans have similar questions, so we're going to break them down one by one. And for that, I will send it back over to my colleague, Steve.
Thank you, Britt. And I want to thank Douglas for that.
I want to say the other girl
and
again.
Governor Abbott, first for you. Following the outages in February of 2021, the legislature passed 18 different pieces of legislation aimed at improving the grid. An energy expert, Ed Hers from the University of Houston, said
I'm going to let
last
you
month,
entertain
quote,
chat while I
no
get a blanket.
question the
I'm
grid's
freezing.
better than it was at this time last year. The governor says it's never been more reliable. But if you're getting up off the floor, any kind of movement is better than what it was, end quote. Governor Abbott, what do you make of that assessment of the state grid? Are you confident in its reliability? You have 60 seconds.
Very confident. And in fact, I even guaranteed the power would stay on before we faced that winter afterwards. When Beto was campaigning saying that the grid was going to fail in the winter and summer, his campaign hopes fell apart because the laws that I signed did secure the grid. Ever since I signed those reform laws, no Texan has lost power because of the Texas power grid. And know this, Steve, and that is this summer we set 11 new all-time records.
They were also
for
warned
heat.
for years
Time and again,
when we had other things happen, other faulty things happen with our grid, and he did nothing until after 700 Texans died in the power outage in the ice storm.
To go ahead and answer Douglas's question, which we appreciate, one reason why it's more reliable is because we have greater power available to us and a greater ability by the Public Utilities Commission to address it. But also, we are going to be adding more non-renewable power, such as natural gas, to make sure that the power stays on.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke,
I missed all of that. What happened?
Same question. You know, there hasn't been any major issues with the grid, with outages since the winter of 2021.
He lied about
the
the grid.
changes that Governor Abbott and the legislature
put in
to make the grid more reliable? They say more reliable. What would you do differently? You have 60 seconds.
Governor Abbott's grid failure is part of a pattern over these last 8 years. Warned about, for example, school violence and gun violence specifically against children, does nothing. Warned about problems within Child Protective Services, our foster care program, does nothing, and it gets worse. Warned before February 2021 that we had problems in the grid, he did nothing. When the blackout started, he ordered the price of electricity pegged at its highest allowable rate. Gas started trading at 200 times what it had sold for the day before. Now we are all paying $45 more on average in our monthly utility bills. It's the Abbott tax that all of us pay. 700 of our fellow
real quick to just my local electric, they're playing games. Our meter hasn't been read since July. It's October.
What do you mean?
So Do you not know how electric bills work?
No.
So they read your meter to see how much electricity you used.
Oh, yeah.
And
I didn't know it was
typically they do that every month, and then you get a monthly bill. They haven't read our meter since July. So
you're gonna get like a 5-month bill?
I don't know how. I don't know what they expect
If
me.
you get charged all those months at once, that's bullshit.
They're absolutely going to. Don't know how that's getting paid. I live paycheck to paycheck. Don't know how the fuck that's
I'm not
paid.
paying it, so.
Well, we're gonna call them and be like, listen, you have to let us pay this out on a plan. There's no way you expect us to just have 5 months of electric saved up. What?
Yeah. Especially without a notice or like anything.
Yeah. So anyway,
Texans
side note.
lost their lives because of his incompetence and his inability to do what was necessary before February of 2021. And the kicker is the grid is still not fixed. Just ask Toyota. They stopped their third shift in San Antonio because it was drawing too much power. We had 3 conservation notices this summer. We are not ready
Not
for
illegal,
this next
alien.
winter. We
Not
need a
illegal at
governor
all.
who's going to do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Sure. All Beto does is fearmonger on this issue, when in reality, the grid is more resilient and reliable than it's ever been.
No.
I do want to respond to the price because, importantly, Texans need to know this, and that is, after Uri, after the reforms that we passed, Texas has one of the lowest electricity prices in the country, far below
It
the
doesn't
national
matter
average, and
if
less
what we're
than half
paying
of
is
what the electricity
higher
price is in
than what it
California.
was. It doesn't matter if we're still lower than the national average.
Costs in the state of Texas. And when you look at our higher energy bills, our higher property taxes, $20 billion more under Greg Abbott, you see that he's the largest driver of inflation in the state of Texas right now.
I'll give you 15 seconds, Governor.
Sure. So he just makes this stuff up because,
That's all fact.
again, the reality is the electricity cost in Texas remains one of the lowest in the entire United States of America and far lower than the national average.
Ask the people who are paying it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sally
Good
has the
answer.
next question.
Got to talk about education tonight, gentlemen, okay? There's a lot
Good answer,
of
throwing that in
teachers
at the
who are
end.
watching and who would like to know the answer to this next question. Texas school districts are hampered by an unprecedented teacher retention crisis. A Texas teacher workforce report reveals there were more than 13,000 new teachers in Texas for the start of the 2010-2011 school year. Okay, look at that number. Flash forward to the 2019-2020 school year. Less than half of those teachers remained. Former teachers cited everything from pay to burnout to safety as problems. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to start with you for this next question. How are you going to keep qualified teachers in the classroom? And you have 60 seconds.
I mentioned earlier that Amy and I are raising
Bro,
our
she's
children in El
gorgeous.
Paso, where they attend the world-class public schools there. And we know firsthand the important job
He
that
is
those
too,
educators
honestly.
do. And I want every educator out there to know that I've got your back. And I'm going to make sure that we pay you enough not to work a second or a third job. Because of Greg Abbott, our teachers are underpaid on average by $7,500
I don't know that he's going to be able to fix that.
I'm going to ensure that you have
TBH.
more valuable classroom time to
That's
connect
what?
with those kids. So we're going to stop
This
the
idea that
STAR
he's
test
going to be able
and
to
allow
like
you to focus on
fund
drawing
teachers
forth
like every
that lifelong
there's not a
learning
single state that's
every child
accomplished
before
that.
you.
So
For our retired teachers,
Yeah.
I'll make sure you have a cost of living adjustment every single year going forward. You haven't had one
Good plan.
in 18 years, 8 of those
plan.
on Greg Abbott's watch. And most importantly, I will treat you with the dignity and respect that you have earned and that you deserve. You sacrifice and give so much to our kids and to this state. We need to make sure we're holding up our end of the bargain. As governor, I will.
30 seconds to respond to this follow-up. You say that you do support teachers. Do you support giving them a pay raise if you're elected? And if so, how are you going to pay for that?
Absolutely, I want to give them a pay raise. I want to make sure, again, that they're not working that second or third job. What I propose to do, and there's Republican and
What's
Democratic
her name?
support for this, is raise the state's
Who?
share of school funding. Right
The
now,
moderator.
we ask property taxpayers, the homeowners and renters out there, to shoulder the
I've heard.
majority of the burden. I want to make sure that the state is shouldering its fair share. We do that, we can reduce your property taxes at home and provide more funding for our schools, increase teacher pay, and more per pupil funding in every district in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor Abbott, same question. How are you going to keep qualified teachers in the classroom is the question.
Drew File just joined with Change for a Campaign. What are you talking about? Like a live? I just got a notification from Instagram. Apparently Instagram just added subscription features now. Are you joking? Why
Added what?
Instagram? Instagram just added like, yeah. You can now subscribe to people's Instagrams.
Can you answer that for me in 30 seconds?
I will, but I got to say that raise the state share of education funding is exactly what we did both in 2019 and 2021. In fact, I provided more funding for education than any governor in Texas history. I provided more funding for teacher pay raises than any governor in Texas history. As we gather here tonight, Sally, the per pupil funding in the state of Texas is at the highest that's ever been. So we will work with the teachers to make sure. I created a new program. I can tell you about.
I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. This is your 60-second answer. Go ahead.
I created a new program that provides a 6-figure salary for teachers. More than $100,000. It was used very effectively and broadly in the Dallas County or Dallas Independent School District area.
What'd you say?
And it's catching on around the state.
He said a 6-figure salary.
To be these master teachers,
more than $100,000.
They will be able to earn
dollars. I was like, that's what a 6-figure salary is. You didn't need to say that.
15 seconds or less. Are you going to give them a pay raise if you are reelected?
Yes. Just as we have given them a pay raise in the past, we will continue those pay raises going forward.
He's been governor for 8 years. They're still underpaid $7,500 against their national counterparts. Per pupil funding
let me give you 15 seconds.
down.
Go ahead. I'll give you 15 seconds, but we can't talk over each other. Go ahead.
Per pupil funding in this state is $4,000 less than our counterparts across the country. Educational attainment is at an all-time low. Pre-pandemic, in the average fourth grade classroom in Texas, most of those fourth graders could not read at grade level.
Time is up, Mr.
We need to
O'Rourke.
get the backs of those teachers.
Time is up. We're going to go to Gromer for the next question.
Thank you, Sally. The next 2 questions are personal questions directed to each of you only. There will be no opportunities for rebuttals. So let's start with you, Governor Abbott. University of Houston political scientist Brandon Rottinghouse said the following, quote, "In Texas politics, it's adapt or die. Greg Abbott didn't start his career as a right-wing Republican, but he certainly ended up there." Governor Abbott, you signed a law banning nearly all abortions without exceptions for rape or incest, and a law allowing the permitless carry of firearms. Critics, including some members of your own party, say you have moved too far to the right. Have you moved too far to the right, Governor? You have 60 seconds.
Well, let's look at the issues that you brought up, and that is, for one, as a Catholic, and my wife and I, we've been pro-life our entire lives.
Separation
So
of church and state.
it grew even
Who?
stronger when we adopted our daughter. On the day she was born, I was the very first person to hold her after she was born. And I've seen firsthand the power that adoption can have. And it just further strengthened my belief in the power of giving life to every child possible, seeing how it can happen so successfully. And I want others to be able to have that same sense of joy, not only that my wife and I have had, but also that our daughter has had.
This wasn't the
In
question.
general, one thing that we've been able to achieve across the entire state of Texas, we've ensured that we provide opportunity for everybody. Grover, as we gather here tonight, Texas ranks #1 in jobs created by Black business owners and jobs created by Hispanic women business owners.
Governor Abbott, just 10 more seconds. Have you moved too far to the right, though, in recent years?
What I tried to explain to you, Governor, is that I'm a governing.
This is like the 3rd time they've had to give him like 10 extra seconds to actually answer the question directly.
And constantly flip-flopping positions like other people do. I'm governing from my principles.
Thank you.
He's just throwing
Abbott.
shots at other
So
people,
no
still
answer.
not
You served
answering
as
the question.
a congressman from West Texas from 2013 to 2018.
I thought he was a mayor.
Since then, you had a close but
Am I thinking
unsuccessful
of
run for Senate against Ted Cruz in 2018. 2 years later, in 2020, you had an unsuccessful run for president. Now you're running for governor.
I think Beto has a
Why
good
have you
shot
run
at
for so many
presidency
different
in his
offices?
future, though.
Is it about ambition
Genuinely.
or
I'd
public
agree.
service? You have 60 seconds.
You know, I feel so lucky that through so much of my life, I've had the opportunity to serve others. As a small business owner in El Paso, Texas, creating high skill, high wage, high value jobs in our community. As a member of the City Council, as a member of Congress on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, delivering for those who put their lives on the line for this country, for all of us. It has been the honor of my lifetime. And now to run, to be able to overcome these failures that we see in Texas right now, whether it's a grid that doesn't work, teachers who are leaving the profession by the thousands, leading the nation in a number of school shootings, being able to deliver for people who are counting on us at this moment of truth to make sure that we come through. And it's not just me, and it's not just my political party. There are hundreds of thousands of people across the state of Texas who want change and are working for it. And it's my honor to be able to lead this campaign and to serve as the next governor of this state to make sure that we deliver for them.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Let's go back to Britt now for another topic inspired by a viewer.
Britt, what?
Yes, another viewer
No,
question
not you.
for
I
tonight,
want. Who's the
candidates.
other?
And we did use this to then
I don't care
craft
about
our
you.
own question as a heads up. So first, that initial question from a Nexstar News Nation viewer. It's from Missy Pena out of New Braunfels. Here's Missy.
What are your plans to help get mortgage rates under control and make sure that housing stays affordable for everyone to avoid the issues we had in 08, 09,
question,
where
Missy.
everyone was losing their homes to foreclosure?
Now we have our own question that
Not let them
includes
buy homes
things on
out of their
property
budget.
taxes, and for that, I will send it over to Steve.
Thank you, Britt, and thank you, Missy, for that great question. You know, property taxes make up a hefty amount of most people's mortgages in the state of Texas.
Everywhere, dog.
Mr. O'Rourke, I want to ask you this question first. The governor's proposed using half of the $27 billion budget surplus to provide what he says is the largest property tax cut in state history. That does not relieve the long-term property tax burden that many Texas residents feel. How would you provide long-term property tax relief? You have 60 seconds.
You know, about the governor's proposal, you have to ask yourself where this guy's been for the last 8 years. People across this state are hurting. The average Texan now is paying more in taxes than the average Californian. When you combine that with his failure in the grid that has sent our energy bills through the roof and the cost of housing,
the numbers.
he's the single greatest driver of inflation in the state of Texas. This is how we can turn it around. One, let's expand Medicaid.
On average,
Go
Texans.
from a state that's the least insured to one where everyone can see a doctor.
On average, Texans do pay more in local and state taxes than Californians. There's some differences depending on income level, though. Texas's middle 20% of the state's salary range paid 9.7 in local and state taxes compared to 8.3% for Californians in the same range. Texans who are in the bottom 20% of earnings also pay more in taxes, 13% compared to their California counterparts who pay 10.5%. But the top 20% in our state pays a little 7.5%, where Californians pay 9.4%. Wow. So basically, Californians' taxes just equal among the income levels, whereas ours, people who are high income don't get taxed as much.
Doctor or be able to fill a prescription. It will also reduce our property taxes because right now you are on the hook for uncompensated indigent care. Two, let's up the share of state spending for public ed. I talked about it earlier. The state spends 40%, local property taxpayers 60%. Under my leadership, we'll get that to 50-50, reduce the pressure on local property taxpayers. And third, let's make sure that there's property tax fairness. Corporations in this state are not paying their fair share. That means all of us pay more.
Thank you, sir. Governor Abbott, I want to ask you the same question. How do you provide long-term property tax relief? You also have 60 seconds.
Sure, so property tax relief is central to this election and to Texans at home, just like Missy. And know this, there's only one person on this stage tonight who's ever raised property taxes, and that is Beto. Beto raised property taxes 3 times when he was on the city council in El Paso. I will never raise property taxes. And one thing he knows also, and that is the state of Texas does not levy.
He did raise property taxes.
That's only done at the local level.
Abbott did.
And so what the state of Texas has done, and we will continue to do, is to drive down the ability of the local governments from being able to raise taxes. And I'm the only one with a bold vision for actually cutting property taxes, as you pointed out. Because of our strong economy in Texas, we have a budget surplus of $27 billion. I want to use at least half of that $27 billion to drive down property tax rates. Steve, it can be done in a long-term basis if we use that to lower the school property tax component.
Thank you, sir.
He raised my name in that.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you 15
You
seconds.
raised my name in that.
Like many local leaders, we have to deal with unfunded mandates sent down by Greg Abbott. That's our mental health care system, where the county jails are the largest provider of mental health care services, our schools. As governor, I'll make sure that we expand Medicaid so we reduce that demand and up the share of state spending. That's how we get this done.
I want to move on because this is an important topic, and we've got a lot of things we want to try to get to in this short hour. Mr. O'Rourke, you say you would take the burden off property tax owners by creating other revenue streams, most notably legalizing marijuana, expanding Medicaid, and closing loopholes enjoyed by commercial property owners. But how will you get those proposals through a Republican-controlled legislature? 30 seconds.
Republicans and Democrats alike across this state want to make sure that we reduce property taxes. I think we all have a vested interest in that outcome. They also agree on common sense bipartisan solutions. Expanding Medicaid, all that means is getting $10 billion back of our federal income taxes to this state to reduce our property taxes. Why Greg Abbott has not done it when every border state has is beyond me. Making sure that we legalize marijuana so we no longer spend $500 million locking people up and forgo another $500 million in revenue, again, makes no sense.
Thank you,
Let's
sir.
legalize marijuana and get this
we
done.
need to move on because I want to make sure that we give the governor a chance to answer my next question. Your campaign team has said since taking office, property taxes have been reduced by $18 billion. Yet those reductions have not kept pace with rising property values that increase the taxes homeowners pay. How do you solve this problem without introducing additional revenue streams? You have 30 seconds.
Sure. So one way that we have reduced property taxes is through those homestead exemptions. Another way that we've done it is by buying down the property tax rate at the school district level. And what I propose to do with this $13.5 billion, if not more, is to drive down those property tax rates even further. My goal is to eliminate the school property tax that's imposed in the state of Texas so that people can genuinely own their own home without
How you plan on doing that? How you plan on doing that? Wait, whoa.
15 seconds.
He's had 8 years to get this done. If it's such a good idea, why are we talking about another 4 years to accomplish that? I will reduce your property taxes as governor. This guy has raised them by $20 billion, 40% increase since he first took office. You want more property taxes, vote for Greg Abbott.
Governor, I'm going to give you 15
it's
seconds.
rushed now, guys, because they know they only have like 10 minutes
the state
left.
does not raise property taxes.
Yeah.
The only reason
See
why
ya,
they've gone
Amran.
up is because
Thanks for stopping by.
That would mean that I get credit for the biggest enrichment that people have had. I will not take that. One thing we have to do to add on top of it, we need to reduce the appraisals. We've got to completely change the appraisal system.
Thank you, sir. We're running out of time. Let's actually throw it over to Britt now.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. You made it. That's all the time we have for questions
Oh,
tonight.
that's
And now
it?
it's time for your closing statement. So, Mr. O'Rourke, we'll start with you
One
tonight.
more.
30 seconds for your closing statement. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Look, I don't think that Greg Abbott wakes up wanting to see children shot in their schools or for the grid to fail, but it's clear that he's incapable or unwilling to make the changes necessary to prioritize the lives of our fellow Texans. That's why it's on all of us to make sure that we have change at the ballot box this November 8th. I'll keep your lights on. I'll make sure that I keep your kids safe. We'll reduce property taxes, and we'll prioritize the lives of each and every single Texan in this state.
Mr. O'Rourke, thank
Are
you
these
so
their
much. Now, Governor
closing
Abbott, your
statements?
30 seconds starts now.
This
Texas
is where I
ranks
said the Richard
number
Nixon
one
thing.
for the most new jobs added since you reelected me. We're number one for blue ribbon schools, number one for tier one research universities, and number one in so many categories. I'm running for reelection to keep Texas number one, to cut your property taxes, to secure the border, to keep dangerous criminals behind bars, and to keep deadly fentanyl off our streets. Together, we will keep Texas number one.
Governor Abbott, thank you so much. And that concludes our debate tonight. I want to thank the candidates and our moderators for being here with us tonight and for participating. I also want to thank the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for hosting us here in South Texas tonight. Up next, you will be able to watch the Texas governor's race post-debate speech. Now, you can watch this online or right
That's
here.
okay.
If you don't,
That's okay. What was that one girl's name? Who's she? Who's she again? Sally
I think
Hernandez?
Sally something.
Sally Hernandez?
Yeah.
I just want
Hernandez, yeah.
I just want to look up Sally Hernandez real quick. Good debate. I mean, not good from Abbott's side.
Yeah.
Good from Beto's side.
Yeah.
Um,
He literally lied about almost that, like literally so much.
yeah, no, literally
Embarrassing.
everything that came out of his mouth was a lie. Do you think Beto has a chance? I mean, I do. What's the current projections?
He caught up by, it was like 15% like disparity. Now it's like 5% or something, maybe even less. I don't know. Last time I checked, it was like 5%.
I'm seeing 7.5 right now.
Oh,
Here's
maybe...
the thing. Here's the thing. If young people show up, yeah, he has a great chance.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you could like watch that debate and then proceed to vote for Abbott.
Because he said Texas is #1.
Yeah, and
that's it. That's it. That's all they care about.